literally went to politicians, to the redcoats' houses and killed them in their sleep on Christmas Eve. And now... Welcome, everybody, to the first filmed edition of Absideon Achievement. This is your host, Mike Russin. The studio is under construction, all right, but I had some cool ideas. I'm playing with the lighting a little bit. I'm down in my den. I definitely need a different chair. This one kind of sucks. But you guys know how we're just going to figure it out as we go. But I figured I got some of my favorite artists, Jover. Jover paintings. I also have a custom Wolverine one that I need to get hung for sure, that I've got featured behind me. And I figured I'd come up with some cool ideas to keep you guys entertained. I'm always going to show the last two guns that I shot. Here on my right, I've got my Kel-Tec KSG. On my left, I got my Kel-Tec RDL. I was just shooting these down at or RDP. I was just down at the range shooting, and these are the guns that I brought. I did not shoot my Glock today. Otherwise, that would be in here. But I'm gonna feature the last two guns I shot. Typically, as long as I'm in my studio, my den here, and also the two books that I'm reading. I'm usually reading two books at a time, and we're coming in super hot here with industrial society and its future. Which, if you know anything about the author, listen. I think you've got to read all types of literature, and although I don't agree with all of his methods, especially bombing nurseries, for sure. You guys know how I feel about kids. This guy had some pretty good points to make, and we could start breaking that down as I read more through the book. I'm about a third of the way through it, especially his critique of liberalism and the way that he psychoanalyzes liberals and the problems with liberals in this country. This guy was dead on. So if you guys don't know, that's Ted Kaczynski. He's the Unabomber, and that's his manifesto. So he just died recently, so I figured I would read his manifesto, because if somebody's going to take extreme actions like that, I want to know what they have to say. And most people are afraid to even say that. Like, oh, we can't read what he said because he killed people. A lot of people that you read about, a lot of opinions that you hold, were usually formed by people that have at some point probably killed somebody. Although, again, I don't agree with all of his methods. I don't know if he knew there was going to be a nursery in that federal building. I don't know. But that's definitely an interesting read. But like I said, it's really been focusing so far on dissecting the liberal. The liberal is somebody who's weak, somebody who views everything as oppressive. They're unable to defend themselves, so they see as everything as a slight, as an insult. And we see that now today in our current society and culture. When you think of your quintessential liberal, who do you think of? You think of some butthurt loser with blue hair and a septum piercing that's always trying to find something wrong, that's always trying to find a way to be offended, right? So I think Uncle Ted here, as we refer to him, had some great ideas. Over to my right, so that was my left, sorry. Over to my right here, we've got C.S. Lewis's The Space Trilogy, which is Out of Silent Planet, Paralandra, and That Hideous Strength. Big fan of C.S. Lewis, man. I just finished the first book. I'm into the second book, Paralandra, right now. Basically what it is kind of like a sci-fi novel, but it's a critique, I believe. Not a critique, but a metaphor for Christianity, the oneness with everything in the world. I've got to finish it before I really come up with what I want to say about it, but so far it's been a really good... You can tell there's pervasive the Christian themes in these books are very pervasive. And if you know C.S. Lewis, he is a Christian writer for the most part. One of my favorites from him is the Screw Tape Letters. So if you've ever read the Screw Tape Letters, it's basically an upper demon counseling a lower demon level demon on how to influence people and human beings on his time here that he's assigned to a certain human on Earth. And it's a really just such a good examination of our vices, of our stumbling blocks as men, especially how the devil gets in our hearts, how the devil gets in our minds. So I'm not reading that one currently. I've read that one probably 3 or 4 times. But if you want to get into C.S. Lewis, I highly suggest you jump into these Screw Tape Letters. That's where I would start. And then, as always, I've got my How to Catch a Predator shirt on. So if you know anything about this guy, that's how you deal with pedophilia. There's only one solution to pedophilia, and it's on my shirt right here. instant elimination. So yeah, so weekly, I don't know how often I'll publish these, but I'll typically have 2 books that I'm reading, and I might be reading the same books, and I'll just talk more about the concepts, and we'll get into that. I'll probably start in the future digging more, and I'll be more prepared with ideas. I literally just threw this all together in the last 15 minutes. This whole studio was thrown together in the last 15 minutes. I'm like, what would be cool? All right, guns, books. What a great juxtaposition. And a little bit of artwork in the middle from one of my favorite artists. So, and obviously a very graphically violent shirt, because you guys know how I feel about pedophiles, right? But yeah, so we'll probably talk more at length about books in the future. That's probably usually how we'll start. I probably talk more at length about my guns as well. Big fan of books, big fan of guns. I believe as a man, you need to be the complete package, which means that you need to be well-educated. You need to be self-educated, okay? I think that you have to have a series of mentors as well. It's not all about us. It says a man in Proverbs, a man that separates himself is a fool. So you're not supposed to separate yourself and hide in a cave somewhere and just read books. I think it's very important that as a man, you learn through book reading, through podcasts, through audios, through whether it's being mentored by very successful men through their podcasts and audios, things like this, or you actually have an in-life, a real-life mentor. I think that's critical to your self-development. I believe a real-life mentor is also critical because it allows you to be held accountable. You have somebody that is holding you radically accountable to what you say you're going to do and what you need to be doing. And I think that we all need that in our lives. Everybody needs to be held accountable. If we don't have somebody that holds us accountable, it's easy to get off track. It's very easy to get off track. That's why hiring a coach or a mentor is so critically important. But back to what I was saying about being a well-rounded man. A well-rounded man should be educated. A well-rounded man should be well-spoken. A well-rounded man should be able to write and articulate his thoughts. A well-rounded man should be able to, this is a big one, is to be able to see both sides of an argument and then make a determination as to which direction he's going to go. A lot of times we get stuck in these ideological boxes, right? So like, for example, we have the ultra MAGA conservatives, that everything's just conservative when it comes to economic policy, when it comes to social policy, when it comes to who they just vote all red. And then you have your ultra liberals, the far left, that it's all very liberal economic policy, very liberal. They just vote all blue. I think to be a well-rounded man, you have to avoid getting stuck in these ideological boxes. As a well-rounded man, you need to be able to see both sides of the argument. It doesn't mean that you can't lean very heavily in one direction. I obviously would consider myself more conservative when it comes to social issues, but I'm actually quite liberal when it comes to economic policy and other things like that. We can talk about that another time. But most people might look at the guns and automatically think conservative, but when they really sit down and talk to me, they'd be quite surprised. They'd be quite surprised to hear what I think about individuals like Donald Trump. They would be quite surprised to hear what I think about most conservative influencers. I think they're retards, personally. Actually, they're very smart. I shouldn't say that. They're very intelligent because they're able to influence vast groups of people. This new Kennedy guy that's hitting the scene right now. Agree a lot of what he's had to say on vaccines. Definitely on his side with that. But this whole... the Supreme Court just came out and struck down affirmative action. Makes a lot of sense to me. You should be getting your position, your scholarships, your job, everything should be merit-based, okay? Not because of the color of your skin or what kind of genitals you have. And it's interesting, who takes advantage at disproportional rates of affirmative action? White women. So it's not even helping black people. It's helping mostly white women. But anyways, really disagree with his stance on that. He was actually opposed to the Supreme Court's decision. So I'm like, man, there's just, you can't get stuck in ideological boxes. So as a man, you have to be able to see both sides and ultimately determine your own opinion on things. If you just regurgitate everything that you hear online and read, that's a major problem. To me, that tells me that you can't think critically, that you're a puppet. And most people are puppets. Most people just regurgitate whatever it is that they hear. Whatever, it could be good, bad, it could make no sense. And you see this all the time. Like, for example, there is a liberal senator here in Maine that's pro-abortion up to the date of birth, up to delivery. So you could kill a baby that's about to come out of its mother's wombs womb, but voted against having drop boxes. If a mother wanted to drop her baby off outside of a fire station or a police station, he voted against that because he was concerned for the child's safety. That's the kind of dipshit liberal, again, that ideological box that these men find themselves in, where they can't, how could any critically thinking person arrive at that conclusion? Like, okay, I'm totally cool with stabbing a brand new baby in the brain and sucking it out piece by piece, but I'm afraid that a baby placed in a box outside of a police station, which there's people there 24/7, might get a little cold and freeze to death. You guys see what I'm saying? You've got to be able to think critically, and most people can't. And that guy might be able to think critically, but he's so sold out to Planned Parenthood, and that's probably mostly what it is. I don't think that these people are idiots. I think they're bought and sold regularly by major corporations and the banks and all that. But anyways, back to being a well-rounded man. A man must not only be able to be self-educated and well-spoken and be able to write and formulate his own ideas and opinions on issues and other things, but he also must be capable of violence. I think that a real man is physically strong. I know that's going to fluff some of your feathers the wrong way, but a real man should be physically strong. A real man should know how to fight. A real man should know how to use a firearm properly and safely. That's a real man. A real man isn't just what they've done is they've made you believe that somehow being smart and intelligent and being physically strong and capable of violence are mutually exclusive. Read some of the greatest men who are capable of violence. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, these were violent, especially Genghis Khan killed so many people that he cooled the earth off. We need that. That's the kind of environmentalism I'm for. But you read some of these guys' quotes and thoughts and their meditations, and they were highly intelligent individuals. They weren't barbaric animals that just were club-headed morons out there killing people. They're actually very, very intelligent. Read Napoleon. There's just so many examples that I could give you of men that were not only mentally capable, but were also extremely physically capable as well. Those are not mutually exclusive concepts. You as a man, if you're listening to me right now, and women too, I don't think it's especially important for a woman to be able to be physically strong. I think you should know how to defend yourself. I think you should know how to use a firearm or a knife for sure. Those are two things I think every woman should carry is a firearm and a knife. A knife is a pretty good deterrent, especially if you know somewhat how to use it. That's one thing I'm going to be working with my wife on here in the coming months is her skills with a knife, because you can do some pretty serious damage pretty quickly to somebody with a knife. And in some scenarios, in my opinion, a blade is almost scarier than a gun. And I think that some experts would agree in certain distances, obviously. But a man that is well-rounded should be capable of violence. And that does not mean that you are violent, but it's that quote, it's that age-old adage, it is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I don't think that things are getting any better. I don't think that things are getting any more peaceful. So if you are a man and you are listening to me right now, I think that it is your responsibility, without a doubt, if you are physically weak, to become physically strong. If you are incapable and afraid of violence, to me, violence as a man is a rite of passage. I don't think that you can be a man unless you've been in a fight. I don't think that you could be a man unless you've been under the threat of violence and handled yourself. I just think that that is a rite of passage. And some might disagree with me and say, well, I know some really good men that have never been in violent situations. Well, we'll see if they are good men if put in a violent situation.